never wore these before, and I feel like I'm in a helicopter. Green next time by, gentlemen, a dollar double file.
If one engine lets go, we got another one.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
You're watching another episode of Wide Open and Personal with your host, Haley Gross.
And we're live.
We're live, or this is?
We're not live, but we're recording.
We're gonna get canceled real quick if we're live.
Yeah, me and Trev's been recording for like 5 minutes.
But the microphones weren't recording. The cameras were. We just didn't catch everything. So we have the People's Champ back. We'll let Treb explain that. And then
He's the People's Champ. That's how I know him. Tim Nash called him the People's Champ, and ever since then, he's bigger than The Rock. He is the People's Champ.
You got to take what you can get around here.
Okay, so I got you this for
You got me
driving.
a gift?
I got you a gift.
Uh-oh. Do I have to drink those on the show?
Well, you kind of asked. So
No, I said, will there be beer involved? And you said, well, if I knew you were an alcoholic, we'd have made this plan a little bit better. I'm on a diet right now, so I won't be drinking. And I was like, well, I'll just sit over here by myself drinking on this podcast.
Dad said he'd crack one open with you.
You want one?
Yeah, I'll take one.
I'm camera shy, so alcohol is only going to make it better.
I have water for everybody wondering. Yeah. Hey, Dad, turn your microphone. Treb had the right idea. He noticed the button on the microphone. So he turned it off when he sat it down.
My fingers are
Only
greasy.
because my speakers here get louder the more I move this.
They
I was
do
like,
get
that's
loud.
got to stop.
You can't get it open, huh?
Oh, damn, what'd you guys get me here?
A tricky beer.
She Loctited all of them.
I had garlic butter on me from...
Blame it on the garlic butter. We ordered pizza, so that's what they're talking about.
Well, this podcast is going downhill before it gets started.
It is.
Tim, Trev, you like this stuff?
I didn't tell her what. Did I say Mick Ultra?
You did.
I do like Mick Ultra. I'm not going to lie. I was trying to get myself out of having to say I like
I was going to put the screenshots up if you tried to lie.
I did say Mick Ultra. Thank you for getting Mick Ultra.
This is about as bad as drinking hot water.
What do you prefer?
Coors Light. I'm going to do it.
Everything Gary says the rest of this episode doesn't mean nothing.
Coors Light. Okay, so this brings me to my first point here. I have no idea what either of these two people sitting beside me are going to say. So we might have to cut some of this out. But let's start here. How did the two of you meet, and how do we know you?
I would assume the racetrack.
Yeah, I'm sure we met at a racetrack between now and then. And
Honestly, I do remember the first time I met you, Gary. It was B-Mod Bash, and you guys were pitted next to us, and I think that was the weekend I ripped my nose off and had to go to a cardboard nose. I don't know if you were paying attention that much, but
yeah,
I remember you saying you were asking questions about how Tri-City raced and wanting and I'm like, I'm not the person to ask. You need to talk to anybody else in this row.
yeah, I remember that. And you went out there, and I think won the B main with the cardboard nose. I think was that it?
It was raining and they were really pushing to get the show in. You know, they know rain's coming. It's not going to last long. Let's try and race. So it's sprinkling. It started raining a little bit heavier in my heat race. And I'm battling for the lead side by side. And we go off into turn one. And I turned dead left and the car was not turning. And I clipped into the back of Brian Collins and we went up the wall, knocked the nose off my car. And I land on my side and his right front tire's in my window. And a window net wouldn't have saved it. Before everybody gets in the comment sections, it doesn't stop anything from coming in. So I'm laying in there like this. Everybody comes running in the rain. Half the people can't get to me because the track's so wet. And I'm just sitting there. And Dad's like, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Just how long am I looking at being up here like this? And thankfully there was a rain delay on top of that. So it gave us enough time to fix the car. And the sheet metal was so wasted. All we had was cardboard. And we taped up the front.
How do you have that much cardboard?
Oh, we went to every pit looking for cardboard. Somebody had a drive shaft box, and we cut that box open and
Did you
used that.
pop rivet it together?
Everybody had enough tape for us to make do.
Tape? I would have expected you to say cardboard.
No, it was silver tape, yellow tape, blue masking tape, cardboard. I was like, I go back out there, but I don't want the radiator getting busted. So we put something there to keep dirt from hitting it.
Is there a picture of this somewhere? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
I got the hard luck award too. So
I need you to send that to me because we're going to put it up on the screen because I'm sure
There we
inquiring
go.
minds are curious about that.
Oh yeah, I'm laying on my side, knocked the nose and bumper off, didn't bend a single wheel, but it was upside down, so I wanted the oil changed. So we did as much as we could and checked the toe and went back out. Actually, because that was in the middle of the heat race, they did a delay, and then we came back and finished the heat race. So I would have been out because of that whole deal. But I went to the back, and CJ Springer won the heat race. I was up to his door from the back to almost win the heat. He had a right rear flat. So one more lap, we would have went to the tail with half a car and got back up and won the heat. So that put me in the B main because we didn't win the heat.
So I actually had a special request from Tim Nash to ask you about the cardboard nose story.
Yeah.
You brought it up first, so I'm going to applaud you on that.
I have like 3 prestigious things to talk about, and that's one of them. So,
Well, you explained it all. So we're going to jump back a little bit. What did life look like for you as a kid? Was racing a part of your childhood?
that's all it was. That's all I cared about.
Your dad raced, right?
Yep. He raced every Saturday at Tri-City. When I was a kid, he was running for points in the Sportsman division. And you couldn't talk to me about anything other than racing. I went to school, didn't care to make friends unless they were going to let me talk my racing. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Did you help wrench on the car, or were you just dad's number one fan?
No, I'm not going to lie. I was clueless on working on a car until my second year of racing. I tore up so much stuff. My dad just, get out there and drive. You hold the gas to the floor. Just make it go fast. I hit everything in my path because I've been playing video games growing up where no repercussions. So hit anything you want. I tore up so much stuff on my car. And he got so tired of fixing it himself, I had to learn. So that's really what taught me how to work on a car because I stopped wrecking so much. I got tired of working on it myself.
You hit everything but the water truck, or did you hit the water truck too?
So my very first race, we went to Callaway. Dad goes, you're going to start at the back, run your heat, just make laps. That's all this is, make laps. Well, I was so slow in the heat race that he was, you need to hit the gas, quit hitting the brakes and get on the gas. So that I'm like, all right, I'm going to pretend the brake pedal's not there. So I started 17th in my first feature and wrecked into every car in my path because I'd hit a car and never let out of the gas. And I clobbered into everybody in my path. I was up to third place by wrecking everybody. One guy, I don't remember his name. I've only raced with him that one time. He has never raced since. I wrecked his car that bad. So I apologize. I know which car it is. If I see a picture, I might be able to put a name to it.
If you're watching this, we're sorry.
Yeah,
Treb's sorry.
In 2012, I probably ended your career, and I apologize.
Was it in the Sportsman division?
Yeah.
You didn't say.
And I had an all, a leaf spring Camaro car, and it was a little bit heavier duty than everybody else's. It could withstand all the hits. But back in the day, we mounted our MSD box on the outside of the decking, and when I hit the last car in my path,
knocked it off.
It knocked the MSD off, and that's what kept me from continuing.
He did not win the first night, but he was going to by wrecking everybody out.
And then my dad came in all winter long. Everybody's coming over and seeing the Sportsman car and saying how nice it looked. So Dad goes, yeah, it's going to be a shame when it hits the track because he's going to tear it up. The first thing I said to him with a destroyed race car, yeah, it sure was a shame, wasn't it? I'm sorry. And he goes, get away from me. I was kidding all winter long, and you were serious. So he made me go apologize to everybody that I hit in the race, tell them I'm new, and apologize. And Callaway's such a cool, laid-back place. We actually made some friends out of that whole deal because when someone came over, I could tell they might have been wanting to have some words, and they seen I was a 14-year-old kid. The guy come over and had a beer in his pocket and gave it to my dad and goes, you got a long week ahead of you, and you need to teach that boy some manners on the racetrack.
But lessons were learned, and you made some semi-friends, right?
The lessons were learned, but it took about 6 years too late.
A little while later. So before we get too far into your racing, I want to go back to your dad's racing.
Yep.
What are some of the most memorable memories you have while he was racing?
So there's all kinds of nights because I was a kid playing at Tri-City. I would not be on the playground if my dad was on the track. I would just ditch everybody there. They'd wonder where I went. I'd be up watching his race. I remember in 2004, he won the track championship. I remember a lot of that season. Steve Mizell was the one winning every race. And I remember it was like we'd go home and we couldn't stand Steve because Steve was Dad's competitor. It was like Dad and Steve had mutual respect for each other. But, me and the family were like, I hope Steve stays home this weekend. It's time for Dad to win a race. And he ended up winning by 2 points. Steve won more races. Dad finished second every single night or won. And Steve, I think, just had some problems. But a lot of that I remember through just how much we were like zoned in on that season of racing. And then he took some time off from 05 to end of 07 because Tri-City switched to Sunday nights and he wasn't going to do that. So in 07, he got back into it just for the Sportsman National races at Peevely that they used to have. And that's when he started getting some opportunities to drive some modifieds for some friends of his. And that's when I got to come back around it again. So I was out for a couple of years, but I was so young I didn't even notice I wasn't there. So
you were 14 when you started racing. So you started in the Sportsman class. What did that
I only
look like
started
for
racing
you?
because my mom said there's other kids racing. He needs to race.
Oh,
And
so
my dad goes,
was
I'm
it
not done yet. I don't want to quit. And my mom goes, no, he's racing. You didn't have him in a quarter midget. It's his turn. So the whole time he's just putting spare parts on this car knowing I'm going to tear it up. Because he didn't really teach me the ins and outs of racing. It was always growing up watching him go fast and run the high side. So it was always, when I get out there, I'm going to just rip the high side and blow the deck out of it. And, that's all I was thinking about. That's all I cared
wanted to
about.
look cool.
Yeah, I didn't think there was any science behind it. I was just going to go out there and rip. Little did I know.
So you started later, and I can sympathize with that. Do you feel like you were behind because you started when you were 14, or do you feel like you were right at the cusp?
No, it was more of I felt like at the time there were still kid racers, but at the places we were going, the kids were in the Pro 4 division because there was a junior Hornet class. But I got thrown right into the Sportsmans with all the veterans. Like there was no beginners in that class. That's where all the veterans were racing. So I'm going out there and they're just like, this kid's got to go. He's got to put him in a junior Hornet or something. This is bad.
Stepping back.
Hey, he's costing us money.
He's costing everybody money. But back, my Sportsman was all stock parts. You could find, so the core industries where I work now, back then, my mom's been there my whole life. She's been payroll, HR, accounting, she's done everything there. So we were able to go, if I tore up a part, we'd just go get a core, a steering box or front end, whatever we had to get. We weren't spending money. I didn't even know SCP was a thing until I had a modified.
So how long did it take you? Take me along your racing journey. You started in a Sportsman. You raced that for how many years?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years. And
won some features.
yeah, I had 3 straight feature wins the last year we ran at Montgomery, and then they closed. Jim Moon was promoting at the time, and he had all these ideas to get car count, crazy stuff. So it's like, yeah, I say 3 wins, but everybody always goes, well, I was there. Jim Moon was having Pro 4 street stocks and Sportsman's race in one class together. So were you really winning 3 features? And I was like, the field split up. The Sportsmans would take off and race each other. The street stocks would be by themselves, and then, we'd be lapping the Pro 4s, but it's like, it was scary. I didn't think about it back then, but I was like, as heavy as we were, we would have sent a Pro 4 flying if we would have really hit one hard.
Would have been bad.
So they really should have had 3 feature winners in that race, but, you guys want to race, you can run this class. We're just going to put all 3 together. And I was winning every heat race and feature at the beginning of the year. That Jim goes, all right, next week, you're starting in the back. You're taking your spoiler off. So I went to the back. We took the spoiler off. I got up and won the heat race. He goes, you're going to start at the back the next 2 weeks. And the next, even in the feature, if you win your heat, you're still starting in the back. So, and he goes, we might put some extra money on if someone could beat you. Well, Dad has a Sportsman car living in the field at the time that has not been ran. And he charged the battery up, fired it up. We took it straight to the track on dry rotted tires. And I had to do the bounty deal from the back. So Dad's there. Dad won the race and was able to collect the bounty. He goes, I don't care if you're faster than me. Just let me collect this bounty.
It helps both of us, is what he was
it's
thinking
this is how
about.
we're going to do this. I was like, all right, well, if you think we're good enough to do that, we can try it. So I didn't think it was actually going to work. His car really needed some attention.
Need to work. I hope you changed the tires.
No. We didn't grind tires back then when I started. We didn't start that till I was B-mod racing. We didn't have enough tires to consider grinding rubber off of them.
Right. So did you and your dad race together any
few
more
times.
after that?
A couple times we did, and then we did a full season together in B-mods basically. But in the Sportsman stuff, the first time I raced with him, we went out for hot laps, and he's waving me by to go ahead of him just so he could slide job me the first time. Show me how much more of a way I have to go.
That sounds awfully familiar. And I don't know why. Doesn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's happened a couple times, not just one.
The first time we raced against each other, I finished like 8th or 9th, and he won the feature. And then the next time we raced against each other, we were at Callaway. It was my second year of racing, and he started front row pole of the heat. I started fourth. They were doing 4-car heat races. So the whole time I'm just watching his car, and I'm driving in as hard as I can. I passed I don't think I left very many people room, and I chased him down, but he won the heat race. I got second. And then in the feature, I had to start third right behind him, and he led the first 8 laps of the race, and then he moved up to the top just to get off the bottom. I don't know why he did it, but when he moved up off the bottom, my car was just eaten. That leaf spring car was just buried in the moisture, and drove away from him and won my first feature, and he finished second.
Well, that's awesome. That's a really memorable story.
Yeah, it was cool. He pulled into the infield, and they're like, I guess the officials, we're going to Callaway. We're not, like the Jacoby name isn't as known as it is in St. Louis from history. So when we're at Callaway and Dad pulls into the infield and he's kind of like doing a little burnout of happiness, they're like, hey, you need to stay in your car. And he's like, that's my son.
I know him.
He just won his first feature.
And he won in front of me. So, yeah,
No.
That's really cool. So from that time, when did you get into modifieds? How did you get into modifieds?
Oh, before I even made a lap in the Sportsman and realized I was not cut out for racing, I was telling everybody, I'm going to do a season in the Sportsman, run really good, and then Dad's going to move me up to a modified. It's all I wanted to do was modified racing. It's all I cared about. The Sportsman always had my heart because that's what Dad did, but modifieds have always been my thing. That's what I wanted to be good at. So
They're really fun to drive.
they're a blast.
People don't understand how hard they are to drive too when they're wrong.
Oh yeah, what I
and
like
when
about
they're
them
right
is
sometimes.
what I like is
Depends.
having a ton of power and not enough tire for it to grip.
Yep, that is fun.
And I love having to sit there with my foot, and then you see some guys. I'm like, why is he so hooked up? What did I do wrong?
Little motor. Usually
Yeah.
a little motor.
Yeah, the very first A-mod race. So I ran A-mod races with my B-mod, but the first time I ran an A-mod race with my A-mod at Tri-City, we won. I had a small motor. The carburetor was cutting out, and I was just letting it eat. And everybody else around me, it's slick, and they're all, feathering it. And then we went and got a bigger motor, and we were struggling. I was like, we should have just kept that 377. That thing was perfect.
Well, it's perfect when it slicks off or the track doesn't
But then
have
when
too
it's
much
hammer
motion.
down and you qualify, you really suffer.
Yeah, you're
Yes,
about a half a
yes.
second or second off. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really struggling.
Hell, I'm that way with a big motor. So.
When you're qualifying or
Oh yeah,
Is that what you're
Tri-City especially.
Tri-City is its own animal.
Oh yeah.
It's my favorite racetrack to race on. I've ran there so many times and grew up there. I wish I could have got to run on the quarter mile or the half mile before they reconfigured it. But the way it is now, I think it really fits the way I like to drive. Because it's
Yeah.
really rough on entry and a lot of people back their corner up. And I'm dumb enough to send it right through the holes and not care.
So let's see, what is that?
I'm the guy that backs it up on entry and loses about 3 spots. Yeah.
My favorite is when it's up around the rim and there's a lot of guys who just run the bottom, and it just makes it more fun for us to go up there and rip and never lift.
So like turn 3 and 4, you love them.
I love the guys who
hole that's
they
there
commit to the
every
bottom
time.
and they don't get off.
Well, you've probably ran there enough to know that hole that stays up there in 3 is always there and how you have to hit it.
And there's one in the middle of the turn that I actually started using when I was driving Tristan's car. He's like, why do you keep running this car through the hole? I said, the thing's so tight, it needs that hole to make the car turn. And he goes, I hope nobody would have thought of that driving that car, to just slam it to where it shuts the motor off and it rips the car because it was hitting the cross member straight in the ground.
You have some wild racing stories.
Yeah, I try not to think about them too much.
You want to elaborate on a story that we heard about Florida?
No,
with
I'm good.
with a broken foot.
You don't want to?
I'm good on that one. No, it's got in a car accident. I was hanging out with the Thornhills and famous James Reed, and bad things happen. You know, you go hanging out and it's 4 a.m. and you're driving around the old Daytona Beach. And
Your judgment is
not good.
not good.
Not good.
It's
So
not there anymore.
yeah, 6 months of zero weight bearing on my foot because the brake pedal ABS. I'd slammed the brakes when I'm driving by and looking over my shoulder, sightseeing, and they're stopped at an intersection. And here I come. I slammed the brake and ABS kicked back and shattered my foot. And the doctor said that this is becoming more common with ABS being so powerful. Because when you hit the brake, if you ever slam your brake in a car, it's got a kickback to it.
Yep.
But I had all of my body weight on my foot. And I knew it was broken instantly.
Well, was it a newer car too that you were driving? So it probably had like automatic braking systems as well.
Yeah.
That didn't help, I'm sure.
No, not at all.
Did you hit Cody's car, was it, or no?
It was his rental car. And they drugged the back bumper because they were going to IHOP. That's where we were heading, was to go to IHOP. And the back bumper's dragging all the way there.
Somebody said they pop riveted it back on.
They got to the track, and I don't know if they zip tied it or pop riveted it, but they got back to the track. It was in the trunk.
Oh
and they're
my
like, we got to
gosh.
put this back on to take it to the rental company.
What the rental company have to say?
I have no clue. I was out of it because
Well, you were in the hospital, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a Thursday night play day when the accident happened. I missed we were on our way home because I needed immediate surgery. They said that if this foot stays like it is for more than 48 hours, he's going to lose the foot. Because I had bones coming up out of the top.
Ugh.
And we got home, and it was a record time. They were just running the features on that Friday night when we were pulling up to home. So, yeah, that was a blast. So I was immediately into surgery, and then I woke up just in time to watch the Saturday night feature in the hospital. And then I didn't get to do any weight bearing for 6 months.
How was that? You had to watch
Not
everybody
fun.
else.
My this
race.
foot got really strong from hopping on crutches and jump because I'm up the stairs when you go into our house. So I had to get really good at the stairs. And this foot, it was amazing how much muscle loss there was. I didn't have a lot of muscle to begin with, I'm not going to lie. But when I noticed how much was gone, this foot, it had about 6 inches of stagger in my 2 legs.
6 inches of stagger.
Was not good. And then when I started learning how to walk again, it hurt so much because there was no cushion around my shin trying to learn how to walk. So I was back to walking kind of, but I didn't race until June. And
Well,
that accident happened in November.
Oh.
So I was back to racing and come June.
But I'm sure that probably was a struggle, though, because you don't use your left foot at all in racing. You use
No,
your
and
right
then-
foot completely. And you had lost all...
and this is the brake foot still. If
Well,
I
it's
had
the
to-
clutch foot, I guess. But I mean, like...
I'd have been back in racing in October if I had to use this foot for the brake pedal in the race car.
Wait, hold on a minute. You use your left foot for the brake in the race car?
All day.
Do you switch your foot?
Nah, yeah. I-
Well, we figured out the problem, Gary.
I thought
Hold on.
I thought I had a problem.
You actually, your foot.
I don't trail brake.
I don't either. But you still want to be able to brake and hit the gas at the same time.
I know. I have it there, but I rarely use it.
On the gas pedals, they swing in, and the brake pedal's way out here. So you're letting all the way out to hit the brake.
I rarely hit the brake. I'm going to be honest with you. He tells me to use the brake more, so I really don't use the brake.
That or she's not in the gas.
What do you do at the go-kart track when there's a center console splitting your 2 legs? Do you like reach over the
No,
top?
I use my left foot then.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. So I got back into we came back into racing. I was a lot better with my foot because the muscle, all my therapy, I didn't do what the doctor told me to do for therapy. I was iRacing and I was rubber band gas pedal practicing, putting springs on my throttle pedal on iRacing. That was all the therapy. I wanted my ankle to keep doing this because I still can hardly do this because I didn't do what I was supposed to. But this all day long, I'm basically Michael Jackson.
You have flexion, you just don't have.
Yeah. So we put in the foot gas pedal and everything to at the beginning. Now I'm back to the normal pedal. I can't tell a difference, but at the beginning it was accommodate that foot so I can race.
Are you talking about like the Jones pedal or?
Yeah, where it mounts off the floor to where I could kind of move my whole leg into the pedal.
Yeah, those are nice.
Now I don't need any sort of special. It's been a few years now. We're back to normal on that. So
When was that? What year was that?
the end of 2021. So that was my rookie season in the A-Mod. And we went to the banquet. I won the championship at Peevely, and I had to collect my trophy on my knee scooter.
Did you like wear this outfit like, hello, I'm here?
No, I was like, I'm kind of embarrassed about the whole deal. So I was like, I'm going to just try and lay under the radar. And then it was open bar at the banquet. And of course, I got a horn on my knee scooter now. So I'm like,
So we've heard a lot of wild stories. So I'm really glad you clarified that.
Yeah, I go anywhere and I'm like, I heard you were in a police chase.
I'm pretty sure the way he told that's PG rated.
I'm pretty sure,
A
but
little bit.
he kind of left some details out, huh?
I'm good.
Well, we're going to jump back. So you didn't tell me how many years you were in a Sportsman, a B-Mod, and then an A-Mod.
So I did 3 years in the Sportsman. I moved up to B-Mod in 2015, which was my junior year of high school. I started B-Mod racing, and I had that from 2014 when I won my last Sportsman feature. I didn't win again until the middle of 2016. So my whole first B-Mod year, we came out of the box, very first B-Mod race, and won the heat race, and I was leading the feature, and my crank bent by the harmonic balancer, and it locked the motor up. So I come to a screeching halt and spun out, and then I was never a contender from there on out. So kind of had an illegal motor, and I'm not going to lie.
At least you admit
And then it
it.
blew up. It was my karma.
Well,
I didn't
karma's
beat
there.
anybody. I got dead last in the feature.
Yeah, it didn't matter. I mean,
I was going to
Still
pull
karma
off
though.
before the checkered. I refused to cheat and do it intentionally.
Right.
It's just like my buddy Matt goes. I'm like, Matt, just give it a little bit more skew in the deck. And he's like, no, because then I'll win and I'll stand in victory lane and say, I don't deserve this. I cheated.
Oh my God. So during that time, I'm sure you going through all of those classes, you had a lot of experience and a lot of experience in the seat. Who gave you some of the best advice at that time, and what was it?
Some of the best honestly, it was Jim Moon, because when I was winning in the Sportsman at his track, he's like, I'm going to let you run my late model. He had a 604 late model, and he let me run it. But it took me a little bit because I was running B-Mods, and I was in a handful of wrecks every few weeks. So he goes, look, I do this for a living. When I race these late models, this affords for me to keep going racing. And the number one thing that keeps you racing is not tearing up your equipment. Maintenance is the only thing you want to do during the week. And I still remember at Belleville, I wasn't looking ahead of me. A guy spun out, I slammed him, and he come walking by, and I said, didn't see him there, Jim. And he goes, you had all day to miss that. And I was like, man, what's he mean all day to miss that? I was like, I didn't see it coming. And he's like, you need to look way past the cars in front of you. My dad's always said that, but just hearing it from more people kind of beats it into your head. It's just, I listen to your guys' podcast. It's like when you were learning stuff from somebody else, it gave you a different view on the same thing he'd already been telling you.
Yeah.
But hearing it from a different voice.
Well,
everybody that I've always raced around that I look up to and tell me, when you coming out of 1 and 2, you're watching 3 and 4. You're watching, especially the cars that are around you that you're worried you're going to wreck. You're really watching where they're entering and exiting, and
Yeah.
because that way you don't want to get in them. And I've avoided a lot of wrecks like that.
Yep, it's always amazing when I see someone wrecking now, because now I'm not going to say I'm the best at dodging wrecks, but I care a lot more about. I don't want to work on my stuff all week. I don't.
well, that and you got to pay for it.
That too, but I do not like bending out sheet metal. I like clean sheet metal. I replace it if it's dented, and I really don't like doing sheet metal. Or you'd think I'd love it because I do it all the time, but I just can't handle it. I need straight panels.
Well, my wife's and her always tell me, you're way too conservative. There's a lot more left.
Yeah.
Well, I work so much during the week. I ain't. Racing don't pay my bills. So
I have so much more fun if I can just go through and grease bearings and check loads on the spring smasher or scale the car, whatever it may be, versus fixing a T-bar.
Or fixing a whole body, a right side. Because it's like, why do we do this?
Yeah, it gets old real quick. And for a minute there, you go in there and you just say, man, I have bad luck. And you still hear people saying that today. And it's like, no, there's bad luck, but you also make your own luck. And if you're not willing to pay attention and keep yourself out of the wrecks, or no, you need to do more studying. People don't think of like, we're trying to do this as professionals sometimes. Well, professionals take a lot of time and focus on what they're doing. They don't just go in there. They don't just wait till the next week and try again. They're studying their competition. Who should I watch out for at the track? And then that guy that you're watching out for also needs to be trying not to be that guy. So I'm sure there's people who go, man, I don't want to be around Treb. I might be saying that about them too. We got a mutual respect on that, just avoid each other. But there's a lot of you got to put in the time to make sure you're not that guy. And if you're constantly doing it, like I used to be, I was always just looking in the mirror blaming bad luck. And then I was like, no, it's you got to realize sometimes that it's sometimes self-inflicted.
I've have something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always a common denominator.
Yeah.
If there's a guy getting in wrecks every week and then one night he wants to point the finger at you, it's like, hey, the last 8 weeks, those weren't my fault. What's the cause here now?
Yeah. Are you the problem?
Yeah. So when someone comes up to me and is yelling at me and I'm like, I am going to look at, if someone comes up yelling at me, I'm going to fire back in the spot because I'm pretty quick thinker at comebacks sometimes, my downfall. But I also go back and I watch the video and I have no problem saying, yeah, I did put you in a bad spot. I apologize for that. And I do like the guys that'll come tell you face to face versus running their mouth on the internet.
Oh, yeah, I'm the same way.
On Facebook?
I would rather a guy come over and say, hey, I don't like the way you raced me, and we're going to have a problem if you keep doing it. I respect that way more than, that no good.
It's easier to get past it.
Well, because I feel like when it's Facebook, even if you're not a petty person, it's like, oh, okay, we took it there.
Yeah. Well, there's always, there's people with group chats. If somebody starts drama on Facebook, it's probably in about 10 or 12 group chats of people going, oh, let's see if they have a problem next week. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right, too. I'm the same type of person that, like, you come up to me, and as long as we're not yelling, we can talk about it. But don't yell or don't cuss because it's going to escalate really fast.
Yeah. I've went over to somebody and just been like, he screwed me out. And I go over there and everybody's like, no, stay here. I'm like, I'm going to tell that guy. And I went over screaming at him, and then him and his 3 crew guys come firing back at me. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm going back to my pit.
You want a piece of pizza?
I changed my mind. You scared me. I was all fine with yelling until it was going to get confrontational. I'm like, no, I just wanted to voice my opinion.
I just wanted to tell you what was wrong.
I don't want to fight. I'm not a fighter. I can tell you that. So if anybody ever is worried about me fighting them, they ain't got to worry about that.
No. Didn't you try to race use it as your career for a couple years or a year or so?
No. So I was leaving my job, and it was not my plan to race for a living. Everybody on the internet made that the topic. So then I played into it because I had people talking. They're like, man, can you believe, how's Treb making it work? I won all the time back in the day and was never able to make it work. I was doing whatever I could find. Somebody wanted me to do something on their car for a couple $100. That's what I was getting. And I'd go racing. A mods were paying a lot better than my B mods were. So one feature win, you go, I'm rich. I quit
for a week.
I'm done. No, I had $700 from a feature win, and my boss said something. I said, I don't have to answer to you. I'm rich now.
I got $700.
No, so I was
buy a couple tires.
I was looking for a new job, and then when I got to racing, I was like, well, it's kind of working right now. I have some money to go. I had a lot of good sponsors that would help me too. If it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have happened. But then, of course, that season ended with a broken foot. And
that was the season.
Medical bills, and now it's like, yeah, this ain't working. I got to do something. So it's back to work.
I got to be a man now.
Yeah, I got to put. Yeah, I don't have food. I don't have to put food on the table. But that's the mindset I had to get into. Is I got to make money.
Well, you do have to put food on the table now. You now have a fiance.
Yep.
So shout out to Megan. How does Megan feel about racing?
She goes, as long as it doesn't interfere with anything that you need to get done. Like, we're not going to take away rent so you can go racing. We're not going to not have dinner. We're not going to avoid putting gas in your car to go to work, to go race, which she doesn't understand. That's what I want to do, though. I prefer that way. So
she likes it.
She likes going to the races, and she gives me all my space when I'm there. Not that I need her to, but it's like I told her, I'm like, there's some people that will come to the racetrack and then do anything but talk or let you stay in the mindset of racing. And she does so good at just going, he's locked in, he's in the zone. I'm going to just let him be. At the end of the night, I'm going to tell him good job. Or I've told her if I suck that night, you need to drill it in my head how bad I was so I can try and be better. Because if you tell me I do great after I suck, I'm not going to get better.
So she's your biggest cheerleader.
We were the same way when we were kids, you know, like we would work all week and have $800 combined from Taco Bell, and we'd go to the mall and we'd spend everything but $5. We'd make sure the gas was full, and we'd go to Jack in the Box and eat on the dollar menu and
Have 87 cents left.
left all week.
I could just see her face now if I said, yeah, can you cover my half of the rent? And why? Well, I just went and got some tires. It used to work, but nowadays economy is completely different. You cannot make racing your priority nowadays. There's some people who do and it works, but you really
Very
can't.
tight.
Yeah, I don't want to run an operation like that. I don't like it. That summer I didn't have a job. It was, the car's really needing some of this, but I think what we have will work. And it showed at the end of the year that we were falling off the pace.
Yeah.
Ball joint's a little bent. I don't have $25 for that upper ball joint this week, so I'll just kind of turn it a little bit to where the caster is a gain.
So is the wedding going to be during the race season?
Oh, you want to hear about this? This is a whole deal. We planned it to where it was not going to be on a race weekend.
Did she
then
like
Josh
that?
Carroll buys Peevely. Now, Peevely has never gone past September. They raced the first weekend of November. The only time we felt was perfect for the wedding. It's still a little warm out. It might be cold, but there's a chance it's not. We're not racing. So Josh has a 3-day show that weekend. So I'm trying to decide if I can go run my portion on Friday, do a heat race, and then come back for the wedding Saturday. Just missed the feature.
Well, it sounds like I don't got to worry about Treb outrunning me that weekend. So.
Yeah, everybody.
At least Saturday.
All the racers that were going to be invited, I'm like, well, I'm not even going to see them at the wedding now. They're going racing, I'm sure.
You might.
No, I missed a lot of weddings, unfortunately. Racing was always priority when I was growing up, and I missed a ton of weddings. And now that I'm having one, I'm like, man, that guy's going to be like that and not come to my wedding.
So I'm sure when she found out about that, she wasn't the happiest.
No, because my buddy Matt Edler, he's one of the groomsmen, and he goes, well, I don't have to race against Treb at Peevely that night. I'm going to Peevely. And Meg goes, I'll kill you.
You have to be there.
Yep. And Colton, he's my crew guy, but he also pits for Matt. He goes, oh, well, if Matt's racing, I got to go help Matt.
Oh, my gosh. You have a mess
Yeah.
with your wedding.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm basically only in charge of one thing during the wedding. I get the intros for the reception.
Oh, boy.
And we're already planning how it's going to be some WWE dome level intros.
Smackdown.
I want fog machines. I want fireworks in the building.
Speaking of the dome, do you like that event? Do you like racing?
I
there?
love the dome.
Yeah.
I wish I was driving for somebody else that weekend.
Yeah.
Like I wish I didn't have to bring my own equipment. And I wish I didn't have to care about the equipment after the race either. I'd drive a lot harder.
Send it.
I would have been so much better at the dome at the beginning of my career. I'd have fit in with all the late model guys that just go and destroy stuff.
There's a lot of tore up cars for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and we this past time at the dome, my transmission broke in the B main. I was pulling out on the track and the clutch went straight to high gear. The low gear broke. Well, I knocked the left front off in a wreck. There was a pile up and I had nowhere to go and got hit from behind, pushed me into it more. The car's still drivable. The lower A-frame broke in half, but everything was still holding itself together. I pulled in. The only reason I pulled in was when I hit the brake, the car was like folding under itself on the left front. I'm like, yeah, it's not just dragging the left front. This could be bad if this breaks. I don't even know what it looks like. I got out and seen the A-frame was twisted in half, and I'm like, okay, I'll just stay here, wait for a tow truck. Well, I didn't know the entire field was going to wreck and someone was going to go through the fence and land outside the
You had to
property.
stay there forever.
Tow trucks were they were busy. So I'm like, I'm going to try and drive this thing in. I ain't really got a clutch or a front end. So I'm driving through the exit of the racetrack, and the clutch is like spotty. So it's in and out, in and out. And then it goes straight to high gear right when I get to the annex full of people. And Hudson O'Neill's in front of me going to staging himself. And I had to slam the brakes and put the car down in neutral and shut it off to avoid hitting him. And I know I have no problem with Hudson. I love all the late model guys. I respect every one of them. if I would have smoked his back bumper in the crowded pit area, I'd have been the most loved person in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Nobody would have been mad at me.
You might have never lived that one down.
No, they might have been like, "All hail Treb."
It would have been, Treb, what do you think you're doing? But at the same time, like, oh yeah, you wrecked Hudson.
Be like,
I'd have started drama with a guy I've never even raced with.
They would have turned the cameras on in the pits. That's what they would have done.
And then I'd have got interviewed, and I'd be that guy who wrecked in the pit area on accident.
What would your saying have been?
He should have went faster. My car was in high gear. Why was he going so slow?
He's trying to get back to changing lower.
Yeah, I was like, hey, we're done for the night. We got to get back so I can get up there and drink some beer.
I gotta go watch him.
Yeah, it was about an hour-long delay for the fence, and I was down there about 45 minutes, and I finally gave up. I'm like, I'm just driving it back. I've been standing down here. People seen my car advertisement, got its word, so I'm good to go.
I did my job.
Yeah.
So, speaking of late model drivers, is your racing hero in the late models? Is he in modifieds? Is he?
My heroes I don't have a specific hero because I don't believe in idolizing one single person. Honestly, Scott Bloomquist would be that person. But as far as like living up to wanting to be somebody, I can't do that with one single person because nobody's perfect. And I don't want to base everything I do off of them. But when it comes to modified racing, I race against them every weekend. There's guys who've been racing modifieds longer than I've been alive, and they've done more than I've ever even thought of doing. And just racing with them and being on their level sometimes or trying to catch them. Like, I love racing against Michael Long, Mike Harrison, Dean Hoffman, Kenny Wallace, all those guys. I grew up watching them. They've always ran each other clean. And when they had drama, I remember being at Peevely and Michael Long and Harrison got into it. And now I think that they were racing against each other every weekend. And they were the two guys that you knew were going to win. And one night we watched, I don't remember what happened. One of them wrecked each other at Peevely in the heat race, and that started a big crowd was going nuts over Long, Harrison, whatever. And then I felt like in 2014, when Bobby Pierce ran the modified for the first time at Mod Mania, and he had his problem with Harrison, and Long and Harrison were in the points battle for the national championship, and Bobby ran over Harrison to pass him. And Long, after the race, drove into Bobby because he doesn't want to. You don't come down and do that to the national champion guys in points. And Bobby probably didn't even know. He's just running Mod Mania, racing, trying to win the race. But I think that's when Michael and Mike started really showing each other a lot of respect. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I've never talked to them about each other.
Just from
But
what you observed,
as a
though.
fan, that's how a fan took it because that's how I looked at it. And just being at Mod Mania with those two guys, I started right behind them. They started front row, and I'm like, my entire childhood, I'm watching the two best of Mod Mania start on the front row in front of me. And the year before that, I finished third to both of them. So I'm like, one day we're going to be there. I just don't know when. I hope it happens. But those guys they're on their game. And that event, as a fan, is what I was like. When I race modifieds, I want to win Mod Mania. That's the only race I ever cared about growing up. And now that I'm like, those two are the guys ahead of me, there's a chance, but those guys are on another level. And Harrison had a problem, and I got second at Mod Mania, and I'm like, we got second, and Michael Long was over a straightaway ahead. And we were in lap traffic. If I would have won the race, I'd have never known. He was so far ahead. If he would have pulled off mid-race, I'd have never even known. And it's just amazing how good those guys are.
Do you feel like driving behind them, just watching what they're doing, makes you a better driver?
I go into the corner thinking I'm going to do what he does, and then it doesn't work out that way. I'm like, I don't even know how they did that.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, they're just that good. They go into the corner a certain way at Tri-City. They go through the corner. They keep the tires under them. It's just something I've tried to study. Like all year long, I'll watch videos of Harrison, and he'll help me. He's been over to my pit and helped me before, and he's a great guy to talk to. I thought he ran into me one night, and I threw my hand up at him after the race, and he didn't come over. I put on Snapchat. It's like, oh, I just got done with the run people over 300 heat race, and he knew it was aimed at him. And he messaged me, and he goes, if you think I ran you over, well, I'll run you over next time. And I said, well, Mike, to be honest, I just watched the video after I posted that. I drove clear into you. And I was like, man, he used me up. But I was all over the place. It's another thing. You got to be able to self-reflect. That's why I've tried to not use social media right after a race, because nobody's going to tell me I'm wrong in the moment. The next day, I'm so glad I didn't make a post. Kenny Wallace is the first one to put me in check. If he sees a post, he goes, all right, Treb, we got to talk. And I'm glad that he's willing to take the time to do that, because it's helped me a lot.
Well, he's learned from his experiences. And the thing I can say is, if you go off of your emotions with anything, 99.9% of the time, they're probably a little skewed.
Yeah, and it's great to have him care enough to reach out whenever I do make a mistake, because there's a lot of guys who just talk behind your back and they judge you on it. And whether or not he does, he can still say he's polished up his social media a little bit, and I feel like I have a part in that.
Well, I always tell Haley, if you're unsure, leave a little bit of a lane, because you will get ran through.
Yeah.
I mean, make sure you leave something.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Oh, especially on a rough race. It was a rough racetrack. I hit a hole and come up the track, and he's just holding his line, and boom, I get turned sideways. I got airborne into him. And then I'm like, hey, he ran right into me.
Well, when you hit a hole, your car doesn't know what it's doing. You don't know what you're doing. So you react a little too much or not enough. And it's like catch 22.
Yeah, it's my dad now. He's always been, what do you think happened? Instead of, because back then he'd go, why did he drive you so dirty? What did you do to him this week to piss him off? And I'm like, I can't think of anything. I'm like, yeah, why is he mad at me? Then I'm thinking
you get
about
fired
that.
Up.
Yeah, then it's all for nothing.
You have any stories like that?
not really.
Nothing you want to add to that?
Nah.
As a child, did you think that you would be at this point that you are in your life?
I thought I was going to be a NASCAR racer.
Really?
I was going to race
What
one race,
series?
get discovered, and move up the chain.
Were you going to start in
Didn't happen.
the truck series or?
No, I was going straight to Cup.
Oh,
Jeff Gordon was retiring, and I was taking the 24.
ballsy.
No.
I do have one story.
Yeah.
And I've posted a few things on Facebook, and it involves my brother-in-law. 3 or 4 years ago, I was leading my first feature. I think I was blocking the whole racetrack. I was nervous. I was using the whole thing, and he went in hot. Tim drives in the corners a lot faster than me. Boy, he took me out, and we had a pile up, and he crashed me, and I didn't win my first feature. So he was probably a little faster than me, but that wasn't the point. So we battle back and forth on the IOE one. He knows it. So just to shed a little light on that, paybacks will come one day.
Yeah.
And
He's still holding out.
Tim knows it too. So
I'll tell you, when was he still doing YouTube at the time? Was that?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I was just making sure I was right on my story, because I remember I always put them on and I listen to it. I don't actually watch the video because I put it on my AirPods and I'll listen to what, because it's always nice to hear another driver's perspective. If he gets out of the car and he's feeling something, he may or may not say what he's actually changing to affect it. It's always nice to know where your competitors' mindsets are, and Tim does a good job at putting me in the mindset of my competitor. So that I remember that video, and he said, he started the video with an apology. I wrecked my brother-in-law.
Yeah, I got my spot back, and the shock was broke, and the toe was whacked out, and I couldn't hold the lead. And I think Brent Thompson won the feature, and I don't know what happened. I spun out and I pulled off, and I was sitting on the back of my trailer or in the back of his trailer waiting for him to pull in. And I told him, I said, I don't remember how I said it. I said, I just want you to know, I said, that I owe you one. Yeah. And I said, I'm not mad. I said, but we will get even one day. And we're both, he's got his new car and I'll have my new car. And I hope I don't tear a bunch of stuff up when I do it, but it's going to happen.
That's the sad part is you always want to get even.
Gotta hit it just right.
It's the innocent bystanders that you don't want to collect in it.
I don't.
You might have to do it in hot laps on just a 2-car session.
I hope I just flatten his tire or something, because I'll buy his tire after I do it just to get my revenge.
Just to feel good.
Well, it's got to be for first and second, though. It can't be for nothing else.
Well, I'm still waiting for Edler's payback, because I got him. He probably could tell you more times I've hit him than I can even remember, because he always goes, I had to check up for you when you went halfway across the racetrack. I'm like, well, my line, I don't see you. I'm going wherever I want. And Farmington, we started front row together side by side.
We were there that night. There's a whole lot of drama about that night.
There was drama. It's all in the past. Gary called me. Gary's one of the guys that I'm so thankful for Gary because I won't talk to him most of the season. He'll be doing his own thing. I'll do my thing. I went and ran Eldora, and Gary called me and told me, good job. Thought it was great that I went and lived a dream. And I'm like, man, Gary's a really good guy. I never would have expected him to just call me out of the blue and tell me that. So I do appreciate Gary all the time. He's always there for you.
I try to treat everybody the same, and I mean,
it's moments. I still remember those moments, Gary.
Yeah.
Those don't go unforgotten. They don't get forgotten.
I'm more happy for everybody else than I am myself sometimes. So
I feel like that too sometimes. But back to the Farmington front row, we go. They just watered the heck out of the racetrack.
No.
We're starting front. Yeah, why would they do that?
Never.
We're starting front row together, side by side. We both won our heat race. All we talked about is who's going to beat who through turn one. Well, when I tell him I'm not lifting in turn one, he can take that for what it's worth. If he doesn't want to believe it, I wouldn't have said it. And I didn't know how sloppy, slimy this racetrack really was going to be because I didn't lift, and bam, right into his door, and I had no control of where my car was going. Smoked him. The field kind of behind us checked up a little bit, and there was a guy who got turned, so we restacked. Why did I think the track was any drier in one lap? I did the exact same thing twice. Smoked him in the door.
For those that have never been to Farmington 2, Farmington is a D shape. So turn 1 and 2, you basically have to set the car down.
I've only ran there twice.
it's probably a 30-mile-an-hour entry difference.
You have to slow way down.
And I'm like, he's got the outside line. It's a high side track. If I enter on the bottom and run the bottom, he's just going to blow my doors off down the backstretch. I'm like, I've got to beat him into one, get up ahead of him, and then I've got to get the run off the top. It doesn't work when you get to the corner and the car just goes like caster wheels underneath you because it's so sloppy, slimy, and muddy, and all your speed you built up just went out the window.
That track has always, whenever it's real wet, the bottom of turn 1, 2 holds water.
Yeah.
And nobody cleans it up. So if you hit the wrong spot, you're hitting whoever's beside you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you like them or don't.
Yep.
And people that race there, they know that.
Yep. That was the last time I had raced there. I would go back just because I said I wouldn't go back with the I felt like the officials kind of screwed us that night. They had a rule set in stone. They also had you get a warning rule.
And that wasn't set in stone.
No, that was set in stone. But they didn't specify that if there's a guy on the front row and he's used his warning, if that other guy on the front row doesn't have a warning, he's still part of that guy's last warning. So that was my first restart on the front row. Matt was out of warnings. They put us both to the tail. We went side by side. It was just before the cone. And I was like, I didn't even get a warning. Where's my warning? I know what the rules said.
It was his.
Yeah, it was like, why am I going to the tail? That's what made me so mad. But I really blew that out of proportion because I remember taking the lead in that race and just screaming in my helmet, 1,000 to win. We're going to win $1,000. As I said, this is B-Mod racing. I was quitting my job in A-Mods over 700. $1,000. I'm glad I'd have been a whole nother cocky person. I'm glad that was taken from me.
Humbled you.
That place has to be my favorite place to race because it's technical. You can't just go wide open. It's kind of technical.
I liked racing on the track.
Yep.
First time I went there was the first night of the year, and I've still never been on a washboard rough racetrack like that was. But we did go back. We gave it another shot, and then it just kind of didn't go our way. But I would go back because I had just said I wouldn't go back with those officials there. And knowing now, I could have handled it a lot better. We could have worked something out. But the way I blew it out of proportion, I kind of was like, I can't go back on my word. I said I'm never going back.
Everybody blows things out of proportion.
Yeah.
That's just human nature.
You got to be able to admit it. And
then Gary
take
gets disqualified for chains, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't go back.
Well, that's all over with.
That's all over with. But that went deeper than that, And,
no, I'm just playing.
And that's all water under the bridge too. So
yeah.
And Haley, she that's probably her worst track to run at. She hates it.
Hold on.
We'll go to Highland.
She hits me every time we go there.
I do hit him every time we go there.
Time.
Yeah, that happens. But normally, I do have to say, other people hit me before I even get a shot. I'm like 2 laps in, and I was going to say something, but an older gentleman just comes out of nowhere and cleans my whole car out. And it happened like 8 times. I'm just bad luck.
So
Like you said, I got to reflect inward.
You know, we're doing that underdog thing this year, so we're going to have to race at Peevely and Brownstown quite a bit. And I told Amanda and Haley I'm going to hit Farmington some more when I can. And they're like, well, you're going by yourself. You know, Haley said, well, we're just taking, you're taking one car. You know, I'm like, well, whatever. You know, I don't have to work 2 that week.
I went with Matt last year to help him. He calls me middle of the afternoon. The track he was going to rained out. He goes, I'm going to Farmington. I was like, after we promised never to go back, he goes, well, they got new owners. We'll give it a shot. I was like, I'll go support you. I'll come help you that night. So I just hung out and watched the races. And I was like, it's actually a great place to be a spectator. I have no, like, just like Highland, I love spectating there. I do not like those stop early on corner entry racetracks. I don't like them.
The problem with there is if you bury yourself or if you draw, because it's pill draw there, if you draw a bad number and you have to start in the back,
You can't pass.
you can't pass there. And the
Especially
guys that
early in the
don't
night.
know how to hold a line, you end up getting into it with them because they collect you. So it's just one of those tracks you got to have
Yeah.
some luck when you draw.
That's the thing with Highland is I've gone there and I've started on the pole of a heat race and I won the heat because nobody could pass me. It's follow the leader. But then when I go and they qualify, I've never been fast enough to get the front row.
That's kind of the Farmington's the same way. You can, if you're in a B mod and an A mod heat race and you start on the front and they're good and hooking line, they're going to probably win that race, especially in the heat race because it's not real widened out.
You know.
So, but it is action packed. It's pretty.
Yeah, it's those. I love those tight racetracks as a spectator. Honestly, the Dome is way more fun as a spectator
Yeah,
than
I
it is to
bet.
be a race. I love racing bull rings too, but I prefer a track like Macon that holds moisture and you can stay. It's a bull ring, but you're wide open the whole time, and that's a lot more fun for me.
I've never been there. I've always said I wanted to go.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
You know, I need to go there more, but it's just too far, and we got so many tracks. Like, people don't realize how many tracks there are in this area.
It's a lot.
You pass about 6 tracks to go to one sometimes.
Well, I was telling Amanda and Haley, I said, between, Brownstown and Peevely and a couple other places, there's a lot of good paying shows around here.
Yeah, and
No need
Josh
to-
is really, he's making this area. It's going to be known to where people who've just never made their way out here, they're going to make it on their schedule. I think Peevely's going to end up being a premier racetrack again.
Yeah, I do too. And Josh has done really good with Brownstown. So
Yep, and that's the thing is I would never anybody who gets on there and says Josh is saving Peevely. Peevely was our only track that was still weekly every Saturday in the area, and they made it work. They knew what they had to do. They did their schedule. They kept it comfortable. And Josh is just going in there going, I got to make this succeed because I went all in on it.
I don't think it's he's saving it. He's making it different,
Yep.
which will make it better.
He's attracting more.
Yeah.
Yep. He's going out. He's knocking on people's door, going to businesses. What can we get? How can we get the track to go? And he's changing the racetrack. I seen a video already. They cut a lot of the hump out of the back straightaway, and that was one thing I always wanted them to do because you could come out of turn 4 and you could hang out of the corner and you'd lose a lot of ground. And the hump on the back straightaway, if you come out through the middle or bottom, there was always grip there because the hump would kind of load you back into the track. And I feel like that's going to make it a lot more racy by taking that away.
Well, we worked in Festus today. We poured a pool in DeSoto, so I went to eat lunch at the Stoplight Diner, and Josh was there, and I'm pretty sure he was trying to work on a sponsor. Josh, if you watch this, I'm just teasing. I look over and he's rubbing his old boy's shoulder. I'm like, he's got to be working on a track sponsor.
They're just getting friendly.
Yeah. No, that didn't happen. It was a good conversation with Josh today at lunch.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy to see him out there trying to make it work instead of just going. I'm worried. I would tell Josh this too. Which track is he going to favor come mid-season? Which one are you going to? Because even if he does or doesn't, Facebook commenters are going to say, "Oh, he forgot about one of the tracks. If only blah blah blah." And
This one's not doing so good. This one's doing better.
Yeah, it'll just rain every Friday night, and they're just going to say he doesn't care about Brownstown all of a sudden. And it's like, what's he supposed to do?
I don't. The few times that I've been around Josh, I don't think he'll have any favoritism like that.
He won't, but they'll say he
I
will.
think he's straight down. Like
He knows what needs to be done. He's got to get both tracks ready every week. He knows the job.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think if you got a problem and you're at his racetrack and it's your fault, I think he'll tell you it's your fault. And hey,
Yep.
you screwed up, and this is how it's going to be.
Treb and I heard that on the radio in our earbuds at Brownstown. When there was repetitive starts, they were telling who it was that it was their fault that we kept having to restart.
Hang on a second. How did that go? I'm trying to remember. I forgot about that race as soon as we started the next one.
I can't say the name, but there was a guy that kept jumping the start.
I remember now.
And making us redo the start. I think we redid it like 3 times. I could be wrong. But they told him Josh got on there and he was like, listen, this is why we don't have people on the front row like that. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I think he was like, you're lucky you even made the front row. I don't even know how you got the front row.
He told him. I was sitting in there.
I like this. I love comedy on the receiver. You know, like when Jimmy Deering's really mad at somebody.
It's hilarious.
It's great. I love being in the car and he's like, you guys are driving like a bunch of Pro 4s. And then he tells the Pro 4s, you guys are driving like B-mods.
Yeah.
Not that or he's cussing. Use your effing head. You know, we're under caution. You know.
What are you doing?
We need that when we're in the car because we are in the zone. And then it's always like, okay, let's.
Well, it kind of humbles you.
Yeah.
It makes you be like, oh, they're going to call me out.
Yeah.